validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. I'm tiptoeing into some technical issues, and I'm glad that it worked out right when the show aired. We're going to be doing a deep dive conversation today, so I want to make sure that we are ready for it. Yesterday, special shout out to All-Star Izzy for coming to the show. He's given us an open invitation to come to his show, so we're going to be probably bouncing back and forth, but we're still going to go live here every night of the week. So it's not going to change the way we do what we do. So just want you guys to know that. So if in the event that we end up going over by Izzy for a guest appearance, we will let you guys know about that before it happens, and then we will also let you guys we'll also go live after that. We might do a scenario where we go like I go to his show the same day that he comes to my show, so we'll go off the air on his show right before we go on the air on my show and just kind of carry the conversation over to the following shows. Either way, we're going to work out the details of that. Also, special shout out to Sarah, who was here on Wednesday. She wants to come back and do another debut, so you'll see me scheduling that coming soon. So we've got a lot of things that we're expecting to be doing in the month of July. And I know we're in the middle of June right now, but we will be doing what we got to do to get everybody in the show. And then any other guests that we come across that show themselves, add them into the dynamic as well. Now, I want to make sure that you guys know that since we are live 7 nights a week, we do not let the sun rise without going live. So you will see us better late than never, but I kind of scheduled it to start around this time today because I just knew that things were going to happen. So I still got to call the people up and have them reset the system, which is going to take a little bit of time. So as a result, I was like, I'm going to give myself an extra couple minutes. And then we're going to take that $150 off the bill like we always do. So if y'all didn't think about calling your phone company and trying to negotiate something, you should call your company and try to negotiate something. Before we get started doing this deep dive into today's conversation, I want you guys to know that you can comment on the show either using the links in the YouTube channel, the Twitch. We have links in Twitch. And we also have links in Twitter. So if you guys want to come on to the show, you can click one of those links from one of those platforms, approve the mic, approve the camera to bring you on in real time, the same way it brought Izzy on yesterday. For the rest of you guys that want to maintain communication, you can drop your comments in the comment section. But in either situation, I ask you guys to keep your comments appropriate. As we had to deal with CJ's negative behavior, we will ban people off of the channel for being extremely inappropriate, because we do have individuals under the age of 18 on this show, because we talk about self-improvement, learning, and development. So this is an educational platform. While we do talk about the issues, we also talk about how to solve those issues. What is the topic? Well, we're about to get into the psychology behind these long-term relationships, and we're going to be digging into building real chemistry versus going through the motions in your relationships. So before we get into that today, special shout out to Red Star. Before we get into that today, I want you guys to make note that we were talking about the dividend rotation strategy, the dividend capture strategy, where we invested into International Seaway earlier this week, and the sell date, we were supposed to sell yesterday or today because it's Friday or Saturday, and it's going to be sold by Monday because they don't do trades over the weekends. And then the next one that we're supposed to be getting ourselves into would be AG Mortgage Real Estate Investment Trust. So if you're following along, that's the next one up. We're going to be buying into that one, and then we're going to be tiptoeing into either AGNC, which is not AG Mortgage, or Orchid Island, or maybe a little bit of both, because those are the next three that are coming up for the rest of the month. And then towards the end of the month, as the dividends are dispersed, I'll be able to let you guys know around about what the payout levels look like for the month of June, so that you can see the value in the dividend rotation strategy. I'll be talking about highs and lows with what came in versus what went out, because there was a loss that was taken for Orchid in order to get the gain from International Seaway. So we're going to be looking at differences there. In addition to that, we're supposed to be covering, because tomorrow's Sunday, we're going to be doing the questions and comments from the fans on Sunday. And then after we do the questions and comments from the fans on Sunday, on Monday, we're going to be talking about all of these riots and chaos and stuff and how that affects our economy. So how much is the dividend for well, International Seaway was doing, there's a base level dividend distribution, and then there's an additional dividend distribution, and the total is supposed to be $1.74 per share, and it was originally around $33.78, but I think it made it to close to $35 or $37 when we sold it. So we had an increase when we sold. And based on the quantity of capital that we put towards it, there's a substantial quantity of return. But that's a quarterly stock. So the dividend rotation strategy allows us to buy and sell stocks that are quarterly stocks that would only pay you once every 3 months, and not be as attractive as something that pays you once a month. And we're buying and selling them by buying them before the ex-dividend date, selling them after the ex-dividend date, and then moving on to another stock. And with the 2-day layover for capital to clear or settle, that you have to have a 3 to 5 day window between the day you buy, the day you sell, and the day that you buy something else, so that when you buy into the next one, it is in your possession before the next ex-dividend date. And the payout date is not the ex-dividend date, and every dividend option has different trade dates. So the day that you buy it is not the day you get paid from it, but the day that you get paid from it, you could potentially take that and add it to your principal and buy into something else, which increases your value. If you go and look at our dividend rotation strategy show, I showed you the whole walkthrough on how to do it, which could potentially put you into a position where you can make like 168% return on paper, but in reality, you should be able to see at least 100% return, meaning that if you put up $1,000, you should get back $1,000 of profit, which means that you have a total of $2,000 when you're done. And we're going to prove that by continuing to move through the dividend rotation strategy. So if you follow along with us throughout the month, we talk about the trades on Tuesdays. We talk about other financial options on Tuesdays. We talk about how the political environment impacts the money. And then we also talk about different countries that we can invest in and find that traditional woman and other such and standards of living. And we also talk about a lot of other things, but on this and that, we cover different topics every day of the week. Red Star says, I didn't know there was such a thing as dividend options. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on that not a lot of people know about, but it is highly public knowledge. I've talked to you guys about trust. I've talked to you guys about building LLCs, building C corporations, the difference between the two, getting your own 501c3, doing stuff for your community, writing it off on your taxes, donating to your child's school, writing that off on your taxes, donating to your local police department, writing that off on your taxes. I talked to you guys about ways that you can make and save money on a regular basis because the goal is, in order for you to be a higher valued individual, there's two ways. You have your character and your personality, and that's one level of higher value, because people that respect you because you respect them and you respect yourself. But then the other level of higher valueness is having a higher status, social status, financial status, and that also gives you a peace of mind. So we try to help you work on that. But in order for you to focus on getting your money right, we have to focus on your decision making with your personal life, with your friends, your family, your relationships, your romantic relationships, your work relationships. You have to be able to find balance there as well. So we give you advice on how to change things there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that you can make better decisions in your personal life, so that your personal life is not impacting your money and your money life is not impacting your relationship. Because when money is tight, you're arguing in your relationships. And when you're arguing in your relationships, you're distracted from your job. So stuff at home negatively impacts your money. Stuff at work negatively impacts your household. This is why we talk about both ends. He says, Lara told me I could create a 592B trust for my kids to help eliminate baby mama drama. Well, true. If you want to set up you can set up a trust that makes your children a beneficiary of the trust, where the kids get a guaranteed capital. You can also set up the type of trust that is designed to only distribute the money to the children after they've reached a certain age, where like 18 or older or whatever, and you can just keep putting money into the trust as the guarantor, and then the beneficiaries start receiving the money from the trust once they've reached the appropriate age to gain that capital. To avoid baby mama drama, you own nothing, so they can't take anything from you. So if everything runs through a business, and then the business sends the money to a trust through a Schedule K, and then that trust sends the money to another trust through a Schedule K, and then that trust sends it to another trust that ends up paying the beneficiaries, which will be a whole life trust or something to that effect. And the beneficiaries could be you and your kids. You get it, they get it, and anything that comes from a trust that's not turning over profits is a tax-free scenario. Because if you get money from a increase in the trust, you are a beneficiary of an increase, which means that you received taxable income. But if the money goes into the trust as a principal interest and does not increase in value and then disperses that money to the individuals, then that particular trust would be a non-taxable capital that you would receive, which doesn't have to be claimed on your taxes. So say you put all your paycheck into your business, and then say your business puts all of its money into the trust, and say that trust puts all of the money into another trust, and so forth and so forth. The trust that does pay you is a trust that's giving you money from a different trust, which has nothing to do with the money you made off your paycheck, which ultimately means it's non-taxable. I talked to you guys about different countries where you can do your trust in, where the trust is in a non-taxable country. They are non-residential trusts, which allows you to be able to, you got to go there though to set it up. But once you set it up, the money that comes from that trust will be non-taxable as well, because the United States taxes your money all over the world if you claim it, but other countries aren't required to report it. So until somebody can trace your money to a different country where your money is coming from somewhere else, they're not likely to hit you with the IRS. But if you decide to pimp my ride and cribs your house where the government can see that you got a bunch of shit that got paid for and they want to know where the money came from to buy that stuff, then you're in a situation where you get audited, like MC Hammer and every rapper that has ever been on the series Cribs. However, if you ain't talking about where you at and what you got going on, nobody really knows, nobody really cares. And the IRS very rarely looks for people who have not filed taxes. They only look for people who fraudulently filed taxes. So you're less likely to deal with issues where it is voluntary, but it is mandatory to tell the truth when you do file. As Donald Trump has told everybody, he has not filed ever because he doesn't have to, because his inheritance went to a trust, and his trust owns businesses, and his businesses makes money, and his businesses buy stuff, and certain things that you buy that you can personally benefit from can be bought from a business. And then the business writes it off on its overhead. So you own nothing, control everything. You don't have any taxable income because you don't actually make any money, but you benefit from the existence of the businesses that provides things like company cars, company houses that you can live in and use without having to pay for them, company phones that you can use without having to pay for them because the business pays for all these things. And then nothing's in your name, nothing belongs to you, but you have everything that you could ever need, which is the rich version of being hood rich. Because being hood rich, you have nothing and you get everything you need by telling somebody else who has it that you don't have, and they make sure that you get it, even if they got to find an unorthodox way to get it for you. That's being hood rich. But being rich is telling the trustee or telling the accountant that you want something and they make sure that you get it. It's the same thing. So if you haven't liked and subscribed with that nice 15-minute interview, make sure that you like and subscribe, because we are here on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter X. I would be on TikTok, but TikTok has not been bought yet, and I don't know if they're going to buy it out. They're not going to buy it in the next 5 days. That's not going to happen. So we're looking at an extension, and since there's going to be an extension, I'm looking at how we're going to be dealing with tariffs for China until like September at least. And since that's the case, because they're waiting on Beijing to lift their restrictions, because ByteDance does want to sell TikTok to the US, and Flip, that has started to become all the rage with far less followers because they got like 50 million users on Flip. Flip is starting to become more common in America, where they're baiting people in with capital. If you use the app, they'll give you some money, but you got to really, really use the app. You got to use the app like you're addicted to the app to make money off of the app. However, the fact is that Flipping is an alternative to TikTok, even though TikTok's got like 170 million users, and Flip only has like 50 million users. The fact is that if TikTok is sold to America and then they merge Flip and whatever they do with TikTok together, you could potentially find you a new way to use TikTok or a newer platform. But TikTok is more for the kids, more for the next generation under the age of 18 right now. So everything that we talk about is over the age of 18, which means that we're probably not going to do much giving everybody that is coming to the channel like all of this information through TikTok, because most of the stuff that we talk about TikTok's like, nope, We're not going to allow it. So Twitter, more open source, does allow us to say what we got to say. And so does Twitch, even though Twitch is more of a gaming platform. So just want to let you guys know, we talk about everything under the sun on this show. And as Red Star has experienced just recently, like, I can blow your mind with a lot of different things. Here's one thing real quick though, Red Star, you've got kids, right? So that means that your kids could be employees in your LLC, which means that the chores that you give your kids to do, you can have your kids as hired help, the janitors of your business at your house. And instead of just giving them an allowance for breathing, you can actually assign them tasks around the house that you would then pay them capital for. And you can pay them up to between $13,500 and $14,500 a year as non-taxable income towards the children. There's still dependents towards you. That is still a tax write-off on your business. And any tax write-offs through your LLC goes through your W-2. So that means if you have a W-2 job as well, you get all the money that they took off of your paycheck and as a return. So there's that too. There's there's so much stuff going on. But we talk about a lot of things on the show. Now, onward with today's topic. Did you ever look at your partner and wonder if you truly connected or just coexisting? Because that's what we're getting into today. It's the quiet little question that can sometimes feel incredibly loud in a space between two people. It's like the silent elephant in the room. You might be surprised, but a lot of couples in long-term relationships admit to feeling a bit disconnected, even when they share a whole life. So are you living a vibrant love story, or have you kind of slipped into a comfortable yet maybe unfulfilling script? We're going to find that out today. Hey, it is. Okay, real quick before I keep going, I want y'all to understand that I grew up in a scenario, get you a this and that cup, where we drink that tea. That was Stella Artois, though, because, you know, I ain't spilling that. I'll spill the tea, but I ain't spilling that. We understand that the top 5%, the top 1% individuals spend more time learning how to network, socialize, and make money for them. They have an apprenticeship environment where they teach the next generation. Grandparents are teaching the grandkids. The parents are teaching the children what they need to know to not only get successful, but to stay successful, to not be financially wasteful. The rest of the population, we know how to get out there and grind, beg, borrow, and steal, so that we can make money, so that we can make the money, basically getting paid off of our presence and our presentation. Then we have to go back out and do it again every day. Now, we don't learn until we get to our middle ages what we need to know to be financially successful. We only know how to make ends meet and not get caught doing it, for the most of us. Now, the thing is, the difference is that if we would have known 10, 20, 30 years ago, all of the stuff that I've been telling you guys over the last 6 months on this show, we would have made different decisions throughout our lives, which would have allowed us to be fiscally responsible. So Red Star, did you know that simply putting $3,000 to $4,000 a month away every month, you can make yourself a millionaire in less than 10 years? Did you know that if you have a $50,000-$55,000 a year income and your girlfriend or wife has a $50,000-$55,000 a year income, y'all could live a $60,000 a year lifestyle and put the other $40,000 a year aside, turning that $40,000 into $80,000 in less than a year, $80 into $160,000 in less than 2 years, $160 into $300 and 720, right? And it just keeps stacking up. It keeps stacking up. Even with taxes taken out of it, within 6 or 7 years, if you're not wasting any of the money, you're doubling down. If you're continuing to add that extra 40 grand every year on top of that, you could see yourself between 5 and 7 years having $1 million principal in a stock option that could be operated by a trust. Then you could also have the 15 to 20% of the money just hanging out, sitting still, paying you guys to stay at home, where 15% of $1 million is $150,000 a year to do absolutely nothing but cash out on your stock option, living off of the interest. And I have a lot of individuals like Brett Owens and Tom Jacobs that gave us this book. Let me do it from this side so we don't have to glare. How to live off of your dividends with 8% interest. I'm not rocking 8% interest. I'm rocking 22% interest at the very least. But I just told y'all that there's a way that I'm going to be walking out of this with like 168% interest, or at least 100 to 150% interest. You know, even if you're walking out with 70% interest, the only thing that's hitting marks like that is Bitcoin right now. And if you want to know anything about Bitcoin, you can also pick up books like this with Alice in Cryptoland that tells you how to invest into other such cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and anything else that you're trying to get yourself into. So I talk to you guys about how to make, save, and invest money on a regular basis. But today, I want you guys to really sit back and think about like what's going on with your relationship, because one of the things that really affects your ability to save and invest is having a partner that has the same mentality as you. So I want to welcome you guys to today's show for any of you that's just starting to step in, because today we're getting into something that is really hitting home for anyone in a romantic relationship. What's the real difference between building genuine, vibrant chemistry and just, well, going through the motions, right? It's a surprisingly easy pattern to fall into, isn't it? Life gets hectic, routines take over, and then one day you might realize that the spark that once used to be there, that easy joy you once shared, feels pretty far away. You're still together. You're obviously still caring about each other, but your interactions feel more about keeping things running than creating magic. Maybe your conversations are more about who's picking up the groceries than what you're dreaming about. And sharing the time with one another is more like an obligation than something exciting. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this before, where you're irritated with the other person that you live with, right? Because the magic isn't there anymore. You're not looking forward to seeing them. You're not missing them when you're at work. You're trying to get that grind on. A lot of people are experiencing that. This isn't about pointing fingers, though. This is about recognizing a common drift that can happen in any relationship, which, if you guys weren't aware of this, could actually lead into other things like infidelity, children outside of the marriage, stepkids. More importantly, it's about knowing you can find your way back to a deeper, more meaningful connection. Many couples find themselves in this spot of performative connection where everything looks okay on the surface, but the relationship is running on autopilot, missing that real emotional engagement, and the affection might feel a bit mechanical. The talks purely practical, and the whole connection more like a routine than a deeply felt partnership. So if anybody has ever felt like this when they were in their relationship, you got to understand, this is why a lot of relationships, part of the reasons why a lot of relationships end up at approximately 1 year, 5 months, 6 days, because you fall into, you have the honeymoon phase where you guys love each other or think you love each other, lust for each other at the very least. And then after that, after 90 days, you get back to work. Within 6 months, you're moving into one another's houses, trying to consolidate on resources, consolidate expenses, and then you get back to work. Within the first year, you guys realize that it is going to work financially or it's not. Within a year, 5 months, 6 days, you're either talking about marriage or talking about getting out of my house. If you've been together for a year, you're talking about getting engaged. You're engaged for that first 6 months. It might not work out. You've been dating for a year. You got a lot of folks that's been friends for 5 or 10 years, 8 more years, and then they get divorced. So living in a relationship that just going through the motions can wear you down in subtle ways. It's not always about massive fights or big dramatic moments. More often, it's like a slow fade. It's that quiet loneliness you feel even when you're sitting right next to your partner on the couch. It's noticing you don't laugh together as easily as you used to, or that those deep, rambling conversations that made you feel truly seen and understood just don't happen anymore. This kind of situation can leave you feeling profoundly unfulfilled, like you're more like roommates managing a household than passionate partners building a life together. The joy dims, the anticipation fades, and a sense of duty can start to overshadow desire. So you might find yourself pushing your own needs aside to keep the peace, or avoiding bringing up deeper emotions because it just feels pointless or too risky. Over time, this lack of genuine connection can breed resentment, misunderstanding, and an emotional gap that feels huge and hard to cross. So you might even start questioning yourself, wondering if you're asking for too much, or if this is just what long-term relationships eventually become. So the thing is, we're all wired for deep connections. And when this situation is missing in our closest relationship, it really impacts our overall well-being and happiness because it's heavy. And this weight is hard to carry, feeling physically present, but emotionally miles apart. And look at Big Mac. He said, Morpheus from the ghetto. From the ghetto. Yes, I guess that does work. I mean, I have been seen as Morpheus, the Black Neo. We are making some changes in society because it's only a dream until you take one of those pills. Now, do you know which pill you were supposed to be taking? Was it supposed to be the red one or the blue one? That's a really good question. But special shout out to Big Mac for diving into the show and showing us a little bit of love today. To really get how to build or rebuild that real chemistry, we first need to break down what it actually is and how different it is from a relationship that's just running on autopilot, right? So, what is real chemistry in a romantic relationship? It's that tangible, non monetary, often electric feeling of connection, passion, and deep attraction between two people. It's way more than just liking the same TV shows or having similar hobbies. It's a rich, multi layered thing that includes emotional, intellectual, and physical elements. It creates a sense of excitement, anticipation, and just getting each other when you're together. This spark isn't just a feeling, it's not even a fleeting thing. It's a lasting sense of being in sync with one another. You know, when you guys talk about how you want to have that kind of relationship where you're finishing each other's sentences, you know what each other's thinking, you can anticipate each other's movements, you know where your partner is because you know your partner's routine, your partner knows what you got going on because they're familiar with your wants, needs, and desires, you know each other's allergies, you pay attention to the mistake before the mistake gets made so that you can circumvent the problem to eliminate the potential for an argument. But you got to build that. Right? This is big because it's not just about finding your partner good looking, but a deep, almost gut level pull towards them. There's a desire that goes beyond the surface. When you've got real chemistry, conversations just flow. You can talk for hours about anything and everything, feeling stimulated, understood, and genuinely curious about what the other person has to say. There's this intellectual click where your mind seem to meet and just vibe, right? Shared laughter and those little inside jokes also often becoming a genuine sense of fun are classic signs of real chemistry. There's a playfulness and lightness that makes you enjoy the time that you guys have together and this be a truly enjoyable experience. You'll feel turned on and tuned into each other's emotions. There's a sense of being deeply understood, often without needing to spell everything out. You could just say or give a look and they just know, right? You can pick up on each other's moods and often support almost intuitively, where you feel safe enough to be emotionally open. This is almost magical, feeling like you just get each other, as we talked about earlier, where your energies line up and there's a harmony in how you interact. This connection usually feels mutual. Both people typically feel it, which creates a real positive feedback loop, which allows for a lot more reciprocation. Real chemistry thrives when both of you feel safe enough to be yourself, your true selves, right? Where imperfections and all are able to be experienced. And there's a willingness to be vulnerable, to share your real thoughts, fears, and dreams. And that's what deepens the bond. People often describe this chemistry as something that emerges from the interactions themselves rather than just being about the individual traits of the people involved. It's that special something more than just the sum of its parts. On the flip side, though, going through the motions describes a relationship where interactions have become routine and they're missing that genuine emotional involvement or excitement. It's like the relationship is on autopilot when actions driven by habit or a sense of duty rather than real heartfelt desire or interactions. So days and weeks follow a predictable pattern without much spontaneity or spark. And that sense of adventure or novelty has pretty much disappeared, which really impacts women in relationships because women like excitement and adventure. When things become vanilla and boring, the women start looking for excitement and adventure seemingly outside of the relationship, which could lead to affairs. Talks tend to stick to practicalities, logistics, or surface level stuff. And this is the positive talks, not the arguments and the conflict resolution. There's a real lack of those deep, meaningful exchanges that build the intimacy, which negatively interferes intimacy in the relationship, where physical interactions, the making of the love, starts to become far and few in between as well. You might talk every day, but rarely about anything truly significant. Being together can feel like uh, more of something that you have to do or a comfortable habit rather than something you eagerly look forward to. So there's not much effort to make shared time special or to genuinely connect. Moments of real, bubbly happiness together are far and few between. The emotional vibes of a relationship can feel pretty flat. If physical intimacy still happens, it might lack the passion, feeling more like a routine or even a chore. So for some, it might have dwindled a lot or disappeared entirely, where there is literally no intimacy in the relationship, where you can't remember the last time y'all done it. Might want to do it tonight after the show. There's a lot of feeling of being disconnected from your partner on an emotional level. So you might feel misunderstood, unseen, or alone, even when you're right there together. It can feel like you're just playing a role rather than truly connecting. You could feel like your partner's playing a role instead of truly connecting with you. So the the relationship might look perfectly fine from the outside on social media when everybody's watching your highlight reels. But on the inside, that vital connection is weak. The emphasis is more on keeping the structure of the relationship going rather than nurturing its heart and soul, right? So the relationship feels stuck where there's little personal or mutual growth and a real reluctance to being vulnerable or sharing the deep parts of yourself. When a relationship is in this state, it can feel dead or boring, and interactions become more like transactions than something emotionally fulfilling. It's a state of complacency that can lead to a slow, draining kind of exhaustion, typically called marriage. Now, it's pretty fascinating to think about what actually fuels that initial spark and keeps a connection going. Chemistry isn't just some vague feeling, it's shaped by a complex mix of things. The biological factors in the early stages of attraction, where our brain gets a rush of neurotransmitters like dopamine, which is hello, pleasure, and reward, right? And uh, no reprofin, which is excitement and alert. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone or the love hormone, which is huge for forming attraction and feeling closeness, which is why they identify it as making love, because you are making the bonding hormone through the production of oxytocin. It gets released during physical touch, sexual intimacy, and even deep conversations, where this brain chemistry literally changes when you're in love, especially affecting something called the behavior activation system, which is linked to reward, motivation, and pleasure. Physical factors are chemistry, often coming from a blend of similarities and complementary in personalities, while having shared core values is vital for long-term compatibility. Differences in personalities, like an extrovert with an introvert or a planner with someone more spontaneous, can create a real dynamic. Exciting interactions are something that would feel the change in both, and then encouraging a time to slow down and take a break also is beneficial as well. We're also often drawn to people who make us feel good about ourselves, who really see us, validate us, and with whom we feel a sense of ease and acceptance. Our attachment styles, which are formed in early childhood, also play a big part in what feels familiar and exciting in relationships, influencing who we're drawn to and how we connect. Now, there is a social and developmental factor where our past experiences, family dynamics, and even the cultural stories we hear about love and romance can shape how we see chemistry. Sometimes people might mistake intense, dramatic, or even unhealthy patterns of chemistry, but they feel familiar from past experiences. This is self trauma after being traumatized, when you have fallen in love with the toxic relationship style and you are attracted to, and your type is a toxic person, misrepresenting the benefits of being in a positive relationship, you might find the requirement to seek something different from what your type is, if your type always leads to chaos and drama. And this occurs even if those experiences weren't always positive. For example, if conflict was a normal part of someone's family life, the spark or friction might get confused with the electricity of genuine attraction. Some researchers suggest that while certain traits like attractiveness, warmth, and being able to see things from other perspectives can help build likability and thus chemistry, chemistry itself is something that emerges from the interactions. It's more than just individual characteristics. Now, this is going to be something that a lot of people are not going to want to pay close attention to, but you should pay close attention to it. And as you guys fall in, make sure that y'all take time to like and subscribe, because this is something that you really, really need to pay attention to. Feel the follow through of how this information actually directly impacts your day-to-day life, because there is ability to make some change. This is a really critical point that a lot of people is missing, especially when they're caught up in the excitement of new love, where chemistry is often immediate, intense emotional and physical connections where the spark, the thrill, and the desire exists. But it's the wanting each other part. Okay. And it's largely emotional and can feel like undeniable, majestic pulls. Okay. Now, I want to take a sidestep on this, because this level of chemistry can be misconstrued as love bombing. Typically, individuals who have participated in a toxic relationship or have learned toxic verbiage from a friend and self-diagnose, they come to understand love bombing, which is the false representation of this level of chemistry. However, there is an abusive toxicity level where you take that love at first sight experience from the other person, where their chemical reaction towards you is this chemistry level, this love at first sight feeling, and miscategorize it as love bombing, because that person truly cares about you from the first day that they met you, and you decided to disregard their feelings and then devalue and discredit their feelings to the magnitude of basically saying that they're manipulating you negatively into falling in love with them. Now, do that for 6 months, they're no longer going to be attracted to you. The chemistry is going to be gone. The duty to try to prove their love to you is going to fade. And then you'll be able to say, see, I told you so. But you really pushed away a good person that would have potentially put every effort into your happiness for the rest of your existence. But you put more effort into denying what truly existed instead of exploring it to see how real it was. So as we move on in today's show, I want you guys to stop and think. If you are experiencing this from the other person in your relationship, where it looks like they have a chemical connection to you, you need to explore that and see, what about you do they really like? What about you that they're really infatuated with? What qualities about you fascinate them so much that they don't want to go away at all, ever? Because that's the first steps of validating you for the good qualities that you actually have that other people are willing to put up with. Now, compatibility, on the other hand, is about a more logical and practical aspect of how well two people fit together for the long haul. And I keep telling you guys, when we start focusing on our non-negotiable expectations for behavior, we need to be focusing on that long haul. It includes shared values, life goals, communication styles, lifestyle preferences, and the ability to get through life's challenges as a team. And it's the getting each other and being able to build a harmonious life together that you guys really need to focus on. And I tell you guys, on the first date, you can do things like, see if she'll bring the car around. You can do things like see if she'll catch the bill. Most women don't want to catch the bill. Some do, but see if they'll catch the bill. See if you open the door for her, see if she's going to lean over and open the door for you. If you're trying to get your seatbelt on, see if she'll help you get your seatbelt on. Like, see exactly how helpful, how beneficial she is going to try to be, and then you'll be able to know what kind of person you got. For example, you normally don't take your wallet out of your pocket, but because you're on this date, you're going to put it in the glove box. You guys are going to get out of the car and you guys are going to start heading towards the building. If she's not going to tell you, don't forget your wallet, she's not going to be the one that's going to see you getting ready for work and tell you, don't forget your wallet, don't forget your keys. You can see good qualities in a person by what they're willing to do. The average man, within the first 48 hours of meeting him, will show you exactly how tentative he is about you. Because if it's raining, he's trying to keep you dry. If it's cold, he's trying to keep you warm. If it's hot, he's trying to cool you off. If you're thirsty, he's getting you something to drink. If you're hungry, he's going to get you something to eat. If you're sick, he's going to try to make you feel better. It does not matter if he's tired. He will stay up late and make sure that you're fine before he goes to bed. He'll keep you safe, get you home safe. And then check on you in the morning, make sure you're still doing okay. That first 48 hours, you see the kind of characteristics and personality that a man has. But ladies, exactly how much of that do you do in the first 48 hours? Besides looking pretty and bringing a positive attitude to first engagement, what else do you do instinctively that shows somebody else that they're important to you? Now, you guys can have amazing chemistry with someone that you feel you are fundamentally incompatible with. Think of a Fury, passionate affair that burns super bright, but then crashes and burns because the people involved want completely different things in life or just can't resolve conflicts without huge drama. It's almost like those romance novels that you see where two people seemingly come together and the passion is there, and then all of a sudden there's an unresolvable conflict between the two of them and they just break up. It took all of season 1 for them to come together, and then they break up 3 episodes into season 2 over a stupid argument. That's the lack of compatibility. On the other hand, you can be highly compatible with someone where they tick all the right boxes on paper, but there's just no spark, no real excitement. That could lead to a comfortable but pretty unfulfilling or even sexless partnership. Those are the type of relationships where if the only thing that was missing was the spark, you would have to put a lot more effort into finding that fulfillment and bringing the romance in. Typically what women have done, and statistics have shown, that they typically have that connection with somebody, but they don't have that spark, no real sexual desire for the other individual, and they put that person in the friend zone. So you check all the boxes of being the best husband possible, but something about you that I'm just not into. So you're going to be my buddy, treat me like a wife, but you get nothing in return. But I am going to show up every now and again, and we're going to kick it so that I can enjoy the experience of having a husband without you actually being the husband. That's the dynamic of the friend zone. Sucks, but this is the reality. Now, relationship experts often say something like chemistry is important, but compatibility will sustain a relationship much longer than chemistry will. So you still want chemistry, but you have to put both on the table. So you really need both for a deep, satisfying long-term relationship. If you do not have the chemistry, but you have the compatibility, you have to put extra effort into the chemistry. If you have the chemistry, but you do not have the compatibility, you may have to put more effort into compromise due to the lack of compatibility. Chemistry without compatibility can lead to a roller coaster of amazing highs and painful lows, usually ending in frustration, where compatibility without chemistry can lead to a subtle but bland existence that slow, studifully erosion into a very unsatisfying but long-term relationship like the ones we've talked about in the past. The dream is to find or cultivate both. If you cannot find both in one person, because life isn't perfect, the ideal person is ideal, doesn't necessarily mean that they actually exist. Mother always said that if you find somebody that meets 80% of your expectations and you can tolerate the other 20, that's the person you need to make it work with, because nobody is perfect, which ideally means that if somebody can meet 80% of your expectations, they're an 8 out of 10. So no one is a perfect 10 out of 10. You might be perfect for your list, but you are imperfect to someone else's. If there's anything about you that you wish to change, don't have the patience to change, but should be changed, then you're not even perfect for your own self, because there's things about you that you're not satisfied with. Likewise, there's also the dynamic of individuals that know people that wish they would change, things about you that other people don't like that they wish you would change, that you just won't, you're not going to change because you are who you are, freedom of expression, right? And put you into a position where you're still not perfect because you know that other people have found flaws in you, right? There's things about me that I'm not going to change, but there's things about me that I know that I should change, that I will change. So I recognize that I'm not perfect. Above average, maybe, but not perfect. Top 85%, maybe, but not perfect. Egotistically, I can call myself a 9, not realistically, because I know that there's room for improvement. Now, that powerful allure of chemistry can sometimes act like a smokescreen, hiding significant issues, red flags, or fundamental incompatibilities. When you're high on the initial excitement, it's easy to overlook, downplay, or make excuses for such red flags. This is going to lead to misleaded core values, where differences in what you fundamentally believe about family, money, careers, or lifestyles is not readily perceived by the other person. Poor communication habits that start to develop, where trouble resolving conflicts, not being able to express needs clearly, or a tendency towards criticism or getting defensive starts to manifest in a relationship. Disrespectful or unhealthy behaviors are allowed, where I tell you from the first date that you don't tolerate that, where things like controlling tendencies, jealousy, being emotionally unavailable, or a lack of empathy become habits in the relationship. And the longer they exist, the harder it is to remove them. When I say standing on non-negotiable expectations for behavior, you're not controlling what the other person does. You're notifying the other person of things that you will not tolerate, and you will remove yourself from this relationship if you are forced to adhere to the things that you will not tolerate. That's not forcing them to do anything. Jealousy, some people find jealousy to be okay because it shows that you care. And some people like negative attention, so they will force their partner to be jealous so that they can get attention. But if their partner was validating them from the gate, they would not need jealousy, right? Jealousy is not healthy in a relationship, because jealousy starts from the first level of insecurity and lack of trust in the relationship. Because if I know that you're not going anywhere, what am I jealous of? Because in a romantic relationship, anybody would be jealous that their partner is giving more attention and validation and confirmation to someone else, where the person being jealous is not experiencing that validation, attention, and confirmation from their partner. Now, that insecurity can come from past traumas, or that insecurity could come from getting used to having your partner's undivided attention and then ending up in a position where you're no longer getting your partner's undivided attention. Your partner still needs to validate your existence so that you are not insecure about your relationship, but you have to be confident that your partner's feelings towards you, their dedication, loyalty, and dutiness to you has not changed based on new interactions with new individuals. In the scenario where you no longer feel comfortable with your partner's interactions with other people, you are supposed to be able to have a judgment-free, resentment-free, retaliation-free environment where you're able to express your vulnerabilities to your partner and let them know that the actions and behavior of your partner or the other person that your partner's allowing to behave is making you feel uncomfortable. And that gives your partner the ability to rectify the situation. Asking your partner to no longer communicate with this person or no longer interact with this person because you don't feel comfortable, that's outrageous. But notifying your partner that their interactions are making you feel uncomfortable, that lets your partner proactively decide how to reduce the level of discomfort that you may feel. But by reassuring you that there is supposed to be nothing going on here, you are supposed to be able to trust that, because if you don't have faith in your partner, faith is seeing without yet experiencing it, or I should say believing what you have yet to see. That would be the faith. And then the trust is going to be blind faith, right? It's hard to do, but the fundamental mutual trust is supposed to be that you believe, if you pick the right person, you believe that your partner will not do anything that you would not do in the exact same situation. So if your partner is interacting with someone else and they're a little bit too close for wear, if you would set boundaries in that situation where nothing negative would occur, then you would expect your partner to do the same until such time as they've betrayed that trust. But having that insecurity of, well, maybe they could be getting too involved, you would not have done that. So you were supposed to assume, they know what they say about assuming, but you are supposed to assume that your partner would also behave the same way, which means that you can trust your partner, or at least you should. Beyond the jealousy, you have emotional unavailability, where one partner might be charming and exciting, but ultimately unable or unwilling to form a deeper, committed emotional bond, meaning that, things they do might be sweet, might be cute, but the ability to really get in there emotionally, really formulate that double bond, it might not be seen. They might be guarded. They might be shielding themselves based on previous traumas. They might be reserved, delayed. You might start experiencing this lack of commitment when you start talking about progressing the relationship to moving in, or progressing the relationship to engagement, or progressing the relationship to marriage. When you start talking about progressing the relationship towards starting children or creating children, like, these things may lead to the understanding that your partner's not ready. Y'all need to be able to work that scenario out. When the initial high of intense chemistry inevitably fades, that's the honeymoon phase. When that euphoric feeling dissipates, as it often does when the novelty wears off or real life kicks in, couples can find themselves facing a pretty stark reality. They don't have the fundamental compatibility they need for a lasting, healthy relationship. This can lead to deep disappointment, confusion, and that painful feeling of waking up from the high only to realize that you're invested a lot in someone who isn't a great long-term partner for you. It's just highlights of how important it is to look beyond those initial sparks and check out the deeper layers of connections and shared visions for life. Recognizing this difference is crucial for building relationships that are not only thrilling, but also fulfilling and sustainable. Now, recognizing the problem and understanding the differences is great, but the real power comes from knowing what you can do. That's what we talk about here on This and That. When we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we don't just talk about what the problem is. We start talking about how you can rectify the problem. Now, building or rekindling real chemistry isn't always about huge dramatic gestures. We don't always have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to impress the other person to bring that spark back. It's about consistent, intentional efforts and small shifts in how you see things. It's about moving from passively going through the motions to actively co-creating a relationship that feels alive and deeply connected. Before you can change course, you need to know where you are. This means taking a brave and honest look at your relationship and your part in it. Start with individual reflection. If you take some quiet time for yourself to think deeply, ask yourself, when did I last feel truly connected to my partner? And what were we doing? What does real chemistry mean to me now at this stage of my life and relationships? What specific routines or patterns make our relationship feel like it's on autopilot? You got to go through this list. What specific routines and patterns make our relationship feel like it's on autopilot? When you are able to recognize where autopilot started, you're able to say, all right, now we can start breaking the mold. But you have to ask yourself more questions like, am I contributing to this or going through the motions dynamically? How am I kind of performing instead of being truly present? Notice none of this is about pointing fingers at your partner. What are my unmet needs in this relationship? Am I downplaying them? What am I afraid might happen if I try to shake things up? And what's one small step I could take today to show up differently? Now, that's a lot of questions to ask yourself. But if you're able to get in there and ask these questions and work these questions out, you would be able to find solutions, first person accountability, where you can start making changes in your relationship. Journaling these questions and the answers to these questions for your clarity is one of the best ways to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you these questions, right? I'm going to put these questions in the comments section for you, because this show is live, but this show also plays back in real time, where everything that goes into the comment section, you guys can see in real time. And you will be able to pick up these questions the next time you come back to this segment of the show. And I want you guys to take a look at these questions real quick. I want you guys to ask yourself all of these questions in your relationships. And then I want you to write down the answers to these questions. And then when you write down the answers to these questions are solely about what you do and how you impact your relationship. And then you decide whether or not you're contributing to the stagnation of the relationship, or whether or not the relationship is stagnant because of something else. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can be incredibly helpful. Make a list: what's working, what's not, what you appreciate about your partner. And when you do a pros and cons list with your partner, for every negative thing you can find about your partner, you want to find 5 to 20 positive things about your partner. That's a habit that you have to develop. Then you want to pay attention to what you miss, meaning things that used to happen that's not happening anymore. Probably try to find out what happened as to why that's not happening anymore. And then think about what you want more of. This isn't about blame, it's about understanding. Then consider your own personality. Recent research actually shows that your own personality traits, like neuroticism, which can have a negative impact, and conscientiousness, which is a positive impact, are major predictors of long-term relationship satisfaction, often more so than your partner's traits. Think about how your personality might be influencing your relationship and how happy you are in it. Are there aspects of your own behavior or mindset you could work on? Now, this is a type of project that you can do with your partner, which would make your relationship just that much better. Because if you take the time to yourself to answer all of those questions for yourself, journal them, and then you provide this exact same information to your partner, where your partner is answering the same questions about themselves. When y'all exchange journals, you can read what your partner thinks about themselves, what they think about the relationship, what they're not getting, what they wish they could have, what they're contributing, what they wish they were contributing, so that you can understand what's going on from their side of the relationship. You can also put forth the extra effort to understand what your partner is thinking and have your partner understand what you're thinking, which puts both of you in a better position. Because again, if you're in a scenario where there's no judgment, no resentment, and no retaliation, you can come to understand the other person by initiating open, honest, and vulnerable communication. So this is the absolute foundation for any attempt to deepen connections. So if your conversations have become purely about logistics or just surface level stuff, it's time to genuinely reopen the channels for more meaningful talks. Your communication needs to be more passionate. It's not just about talking about sex. You guys need to really be talking about how you feel and how you feel like you're impacting the other person in your relationship. How does the other person respond to how you feel, your observations of your thoughts, so that they can recognize that. And if anybody needs to make a conscious decision to make change, they're not retaliating in a negative fashion. They're recognizing that a miscommunication has led us in the wrong path, and I'm going to make changes to prevent that miscommunication from happening again. But you have to choose the right time and place for this. Don't ambush your partner when they're stressed or distracted, or attacking your partner while they're on the video game and forcing them to do a relationship journey with you. You want to find a calm, private moment where you can both focus without interruptions. So you don't want to spring this on your partner while you're hanging out with your homies, or spring this on your partner while you're with your family, or spring it on your partner while you're with his family. Think about that. Maybe suggest a relationship check-in where you're recommending a date and time where we're going to meet up and we're really going to address this. Use I statements. Statements work equally as well. We and us means that we're in this together. We're on the same side. But we, us, and I are really good ways where you can frame your feelings and what you've noticed from your perspective to avoid sounding like you're accusing them. Because when you look at someone else and you say you are directly attacking them with what you believe is wrong with them. For instance, instead of "you never talk to me anymore," try something like, "Lately, I've been feeling a bit disconnected and I really miss our deeper conversations." It's not about them. It's about how you feel and what you think. You can also say something to the magnitudes of, "It's been a while since we've talked. I miss how we used to talk all the time." Also indicating that us needs to happen more often. But at no point in that are you accusing the other person of not doing anything. You're just saying that there's something that's not happening that you would prefer to start back happening again, right? You would prefer for it to continue. Share your reflections gently, though, because when you express what you've been feeling and observing about the relationship, you want to focus on your desire for greater closeness, not just on a list of complaints. Share what you're longing for, and then practice that active listening that we've been talking about on the show. When your partner speaks, truly listen to understand them, not just to plan your response or argue back. If you have a rebuttal, I've talked about this with a buddy of mine before. If you have a rebuttal to what I just said, you weren't listening. Because you should not be capable of countering my statement with a contradictory statement if you were listening to what I was saying. Which ultimately means that while you're listening to what I'm saying, you are listening quietly, word for word, paying attention. And then probably 5 to 10 seconds after I stop talking, you're able to respond, because you don't start thinking about a response until after you've heard everything that I've said and start evaluating it. Now, this works for everybody, both sides of the relationship, because you also recognize that if you're both talking at the same time, nobody's listening. If you're rebuttaling with one another with catchy mic drop comments, zingers, taking shots at each other, you're not communicating anymore. So you can recognize that the conversation you're currently in is quickly manifesting into an unhealthy argument simply because of the lack of time between the statement and the response to the statement. Notice in those dramas, somebody will say something, there's a pause, the camera changes like 5 times and shows everybody who's looking at everybody else when the statement was said before somebody else says something else. Ironically, that's kind of how if you were listening to what was being said, you're supposed to be able to have a brief moment of silence before anything else is said so that you can manifest an understanding of what was just said before you respond to it. But if you're waiting to jump back in and you're waiting to retaliate or respond with a rebuttal, you don't care what they're saying. You're just waiting on them to shut up. And then you have to put your phone away. You have to make eye contact with the other person. I mean, nodding is okay, and maybe reflect back what you hear to them sometimes, because my own personal experience, that if you repeat what I said every time I stop talking, you're not listening. You tuned me out, and then when I stop talking, you recite the last thing that you remember hearing before you tuned me out. Which means if I asked a question, if I provided you with a statement and then asked a question, you're going to restate the question to make sure that you heard the question, but you don't know where the question came from because you didn't really start listening until the question came out. So restating what somebody just said doesn't always work if you're doing it too frequently, because it shows a lack of interest. But if you're going to make sure that you heard them correctly, you would restate some of what they said to make sure that you're understanding what they just said. For example, they would make the comment and then you would respond with, so if I'm hearing you right, you're feeling whatever. And then you want to encourage an open chat without judgment or defensiveness. Embracing the vulnerability is something that a lot of men are going to struggle with, but this is so important for building intimacy. Share your own feelings, fears, and needs. This isn't about weakness. It's about the courage to be seen as you truly are. So when one partner opens up, it often creates a safe space for the other person to do the same. Being deeply known by someone is incredibly rewarding and can actually become a source of attraction. Then you want to talk about the chemistry and the connection. When you discuss what chemistry means to both of you, what makes each of you feel connected, alive, and joyful in a relationship, you'll be able to understand what are your bids for connection, those little attempts to connect, and are they being noticed? Really asking yourself, asking your partner, did you know that these are the things that I do to get your attention? And see if they're paying attention to that. If that's not being received, you might need to change it up. They might need to change up the fact that they could be oblivious to the little nifty things around the way that doesn't reflect appreciation. Now, when we start moving forward, we're going to be talking about these non-negotiable expectations for behavior. People say set boundaries, but setting boundaries puts walls up. And in a relationship, you're not supposed to have walls. I'm supposed to get as close to you as I want, and you're supposed to get as close to me as you want. You're not supposed to have boundaries, but you are supposed to have non-negotiable expectations for behavior, meaning that if you fuck this up, certain things are deal breakers. Certain things, no matter how long this relationship exists, is automatic termination. So you want to openly talk about what a romantic connection means to each of the two of you, including your expectations, all of your non-negotiable expectations for behavior. So your flexibility is in there, things that you can make exceptions to. But when you're setting healthy levels of expectations, you are able to visualize and allow each other to grow individually while building respect and trust together. And it's an ongoing conversation because good communication isn't a one-time thing. Regularly checking in with each other about your feelings, needs, your expectations and experiences to make sure that your partner is satisfied with the relationship that they're in, and making sure that you're equally satisfied in a relationship that you're in. Now, if you prioritize the quality time and sharing of meaningful experiences, you'll be able to realize that while life gets busy and it is so easy for together time to become adjacent time, being in the same house, that both of you doing your own thing becomes the norm. Rebuilding chemistry often means consciously making opportunities for positive shared experiences. For example, instead of you guys being in the same place, in the same house, but being on two different sides of the house, make it a point to do an activity together, like cooking or cleaning or, Netflix and chilling, doing a crossword puzzle. If you have a task or activity, try to do it with your partner. If they have a task or activity, try to help them with that task or activity. If you schedule dedicated connection time, while this might sound a bit unromantic, in a busy life, scheduling actual time for each other makes sense, and it will surely occur because you are not available. So literally telling everyone else in your life no during this window because you're dedicating your time to the other person is something that is necessary. This could be regular date night, even if they're at home, where the key is to protect this time from other commitments and distractions. When we were growing up, back when Vince McMahon owned the WWE, we used to watch wrestling on Monday nights. No matter where the family was in the world, everybody had to bring their ass home for Monday Night Raw. And you were there before the credits closed. Legit, for that 2 hours, you were there. You were also there for the pay-per-views, and you were also the WrestleMania. You with that day, that time slot, that location, you're going to be there. This is a way of building traditions in the family, but it is also ways of guaranteeing quality time with the people that matter to you. Now, I understand some people are like, well, I got to work, business deals, this, that, and the third. As flexible as you are with the company that you work for, with the friends that you deal with the chaos that you handle on a day-to-day basis in your life, making it a point to be available for the people that matter to you specifically prevents them from fading out of your life. Because if you become duty bound to one specific thing, especially if you become duty bound to just stress, you will never find peace. So you have to make time for peace. You have to make time for happiness. You have to make time for loved ones. Because if you don't make time for them, you will never have time for them. Research shows that couples who try new things together can boost attraction and emotional closeness. Break out those ruts. It does not have to be anything crazy or expensive or even remotely elaborate. I tell you this all the time. There are cheap ways that you can just spontaneously do something different. You can leave love notes throughout the house where 100 cue cards cost like $2. You could do things like get a fake bouquet of roses for like $3 a rose and randomly leave a rose on your wife's car. Randomly. Okay, these are things that you can do. You can do things that don't cost money. For example, cooking together, cleaning together, mowing the lawn together. You guys can make a classic dinner and have it out on the back porch. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. You could go to a park. You could have a picnic in the park. Make you some tuna fish sandwiches and have a picnic in the park. Go watch the sunset together. Go stargazing. Just take time off and go stargazing. You guys got kids? Get you a babysitter. Leave the house just so that you can go lay on the hood of the car and look at the sky till the babysitter goes back. You guys have to remember that if you try new things like a new restaurant or a new type of food that you've never had, you can explore a new neighborhood you've never been in or park in your city that you've never experienced or one that you haven't been to in a while. You guys can take classes together. Outside of cooking, you can do dancing or pottery, bonus points. If neither of you knows what you're doing, you can have so much fun messing up, trying to get there, that it's not a competition, right? Speaking of, I just tried something new. Special shout out to Fit Chef Recipes. Just made some boneless spare ribs. Going to be bringing them to the show tomorrow. Came out of nowhere. Been looking for some Chinese. Couldn't find any Chinese that I could get my hands on. And it was just like, I'm going to make some boneless spare ribs. Got all of the ingredients, did all the prep, and now I've got to just smoke it out for tomorrow. And this is after we just did the shrimp filled burgers with the pepper jack cheese in them. We just worked those out a couple weeks ago. I got to put those videos up on the channel. If you're not on YouTube, if you're on Twitch or Twitter, you can find this information on YouTube, because we're going to be putting up all of the stuff for the food and with the boneless spare ribs, we put the bottle of wine in there. So we're about to get drunked up. But the fact is that we're trying something new. 6 pounds of pork. Telling you what, it's gonna look like a Japanese anime. It's gonna be a big mountain of meat. But outside of cooking, you guys can go on a weekend getaway, even if it's just a nearby town. You can work on projects together, like planting a garden or redecorating a room. You could repair things around the house so that your landlord doesn't have to. You can work on the car together so that you don't have to spend so much money on a repair guy. You guys could take turns, like working on building stuff around the house. If the coffee maker's not working, if the washer and dryer's not functioning right, you guys can just put forth effort to try to see if you can fix that. Right? Then revisit some positive memories. Sometimes looking back can help you move forward. Go to a place that was special in the early days of your relationship. And sometimes you can go back to a couple weeks ago or last month or last year. Look through old photos, take photos in order to build yourself, scrapbook the best parts of your relationship. And since those of you that are utilizing social media so much, you should go through your social media platform and look through all the photos of all the happy times in your life, or listen to music that reminds you of that one time, right? This can remind you that you're still interesting people who genuinely like each other. And then you want to engage in parallel play with connection points. This is totally okay to have your own individual interests, but find ways to share bits of them with somebody else. If one of you loves reading and the other one loves games, maybe spend an hour in the same room, occasionally sharing a thought or a smile, then come together later to talk about what you were each doing. So if he was playing the video game, listen to him about how the game dominated him and messed him up. Then you want to be able to tell him about the book that you read and how much you love that book. Now, side note, my man Bayside just came in. He's been gone all week. He said that his mom just went to LA. Hold on, y'all. I've been missing him all week. Bayside missed Sarah. He missed All-Star Izzy on the show. All the guest stars he was supposed to come in and question. He missed everybody, but that's okay. They're supposed to come back to the show another day. So hopefully when they come back again, Bayside will be able to come back and show us some love. But special shout out to Bayside for making it in today. Greatly appreciated. And yes, we do have intros for some of the fans, some of the ones that come to the show on a diligent basis, like Mr. Satellite. Really appreciate you for coming to the show. And again, special shout out to Mom. But we're going to talk about, he said, I know I miss Sarah. I hope it went well. Yeah, she was on the show for almost 3 hours. It was better than I had anticipated. She wants to do a follow-up show. There was a lot of questions that I did not ask because it would have turned into some debates. But I did promote her platform, and I'm supposed to embed the links to her show, not to her show, but to her website and to her product into Wednesday's show. So I'm going to be doing that tonight. But the fact is that she gave a lot of insight, and the irony was, one of the things that I loved about her being there was that she literally co-signed on most of the things that I have already said. So, but she came from a female's perspective because her goal was to give advice to men about how to find a better woman. and I am giving people generic advice about how to be better people so that they can pay attention to better people around them and hopefully find the right person. My advice is primarily directed at the fellas, but I mean, it's not just about the guys, because in order for a man to find the right woman, a woman has to be looking for the right man at the same time. So, it takes two of you. So I provide information to both sides. But she did point out a lot of the stigmas that was going on that needs to be changed and adjusted. And a large majority of her clientele did have the same controversial setbacks that we talk about on the show on a regular basis, which ultimately brings us back to the understanding that we have to put a lot more effort into what we're looking for, and we have to be diligent about our expectations without faltering due to the inconvenience of feeling lonely, or the fear that we'll stay alone forever. We have to prioritize the values that we have and stick to them, because when we do find that new person, we're not going to be as lonely as we would have been if we would have just fell for the wrong person. See what I'm saying? Reen is saying best viewers. I don't know who that is. He's giving us a different name. Is that supposed to be for All-Star Izzy? Because yeah, we could throw All-Star Izzy out there. And you're saying JFWBQF6. I don't know who that is. But Reman is he's here for the night. Bayside says, this is a great topic tonight, Xander. So many of us were in long relationships, lose that spark, and it does become just methodic. So love that insight about gaining that spark back. I tell you guys, we talk about a different area of topics because we have to cover a lot about how to get into one. But then once we get into one, we do have to talk about how to stay in one. We have to point out the areas when the relationship fails and what to do about that. But we also have to talk about ways to not allow the relationship to fail. It's a grassroots scenario. So there is room for a different topic every day of the week to still have a niche of a specific genre of a topic that holistically, if all of the advice is taken and utilized holistically, wherever you are in your relationship, you can revive it if you want to keep it. Likewise, if you're also in that type of relationship where you recognize that your partner has abandoned a relationship, but they're still present, where, like I told you guys before, you are vocalizing your dissatisfaction in the current position of the relationship, and the partner acknowledges your dissatisfaction and shows no concern as to rectifying the situation. That's when you recognize that the relationship has run its course, specifically because the effort that you're putting into the relationship is not enough, and the lack of effort from your partner is needed and is not willingly offered, whereby recognizing that only one out of the two of you is invested in the relationship and the other person being on autopilot. If they do not consciously choose to begin being proactive in a relationship, at some point the relationship will fail. But we also have to take into consideration that there are some psychological factors that causes people to be disconnected in relationships for extended periods of time, such as depression and anxiety and other such things that are personally negatively impacting that person, where it is not their desire to abandon the relationship, it is their lack of support to get through the hurdles in their life in order for them to be present in a relationship, which requires you to prolong abandonment of the relationship, because you have to show support to their tough times, whether it's a few days, a few months, or a couple of years in some situations. And then once they recognize that you're putting in extra effort for the other person, that's when the other person starts reciprocating because they might not notice that you're putting extra effort in them in the beginning. But at some point, it'll be brought to their attention that you're putting in extra effort for the sake of them. And then that person who values you should start reciprocating that same effort or more effort to make up for the long period of time that they forgot or overlooked your efforts. But these things happen in long-term relationships, and these are the things that lead to the infidelity in relationships. And it also leads to the breakups and the divorces. So when you make real effort and put away your phone and other devices during quality time, like when I told you guys a story about the one chick I was dating with the kids, and I was like, no phone at the dinner table, and she didn't want to get off of the phone, that like killed the relationship, because it's like, look, this one 30-minute dinner is going to be the only time that we're not going to be glued to our cell phones. You know, and when you have kids, it's like no phones at the table, and they'll not notice it. They, you know, and some kids, they'll keep their phone in their pocket or something to that effect, and everybody's phone on the table. But it's like, no, if there's no phones in this room, you're going to leave your phone somewhere else, because everybody else here, we're going to pay attention to the people that's in this room. And that allows you to connect to the people in the room with you, which allows families to maintain bonds. If you're creating small group traditions, you're able to understand that the magic can happen in smaller, more intimate settings. Maybe it's a weekly Sunday brunch just for the two of you, or a regular evening walk. You guys can join a bowling team together, couples bowling teams, where you guys work on a competition where you're not competing against each other. You're supporting each other in your victories, right? And you want to reignite the physical intimacy and affection, where physical touch is such a powerful way to communicate love and build connection. Some people become so antisocial that they don't feel comfortable with being touched by anybody, not even a romantic partner. Being able to proactively allow for, and it's going to feel weird, like when you're talking to somebody that you care about, and you put your hand on their arm, or you put their hand on their leg, or you put your hand on their back, it's that awkward feeling that you have is because you're so emotionally detached from your environment. You're so physically detached from your environment that you are not used to physical contact, and you're not used to giving it or receiving it. So it feels weird. But when you start making that habit, where you're able to physically touch the person that you're talking to, and allow the person who's talking to you to touch you back. And this is appropriate touch now, not inappropriate touch. The fact is that physical contact can build an emotional connection between two people in a platonic fashion. So when you're doing this in a romantic fashion, if intimacy has become mechanical or doesn't happen often, you will be able to utilize these efforts to bring attention to the physical intimacy, which rekindling the physical intimacy will rekindle the bonding element between the two of you. Think about 6-second kisses. Relationship expert Dr. John Gottman suggests a daily 6-second kiss. It's longer than a quick peck and forces you to slow down and connect. This simple act can release oxytocin, which is that love hormone, that bonding chemical that we were just talking about. And then sticking to that non-sexual touch, increasing everyday physical affection, rubbing each other's back, holding hands, rubbing each other's legs, hugging spontaneously, holding each other throughout the day. Touch your partner's arm when you speak to them, cuddle on the sofa, lay your head on their shoulder, lay their head on your shoulder. The small gestures really reinforce your bond. And the non-sexual touch brings more emotional connection to one another, before the physical intimacy starts, which actually makes the physical intimacy more intense. Now, talking about your sex lives, this can be tough, but it's essential. So what you are desiring, fantasies and needs, these things you guys can talk about. What would make physical intimacy more exciting or fulfilling for both of you? This isn't talking about your past sex partners and the wild positions y'all used to do or the wild locations y'all used to get down at. This is talking about the things that you enjoy in the bedroom with your partner, or in the intimate physical connections that you have with your partner, or the type of fetishes and desires that you have that you've developed over your lifetime that you would like for your partner to explore if your partner is not currently performing in that fashion. Not specifically because your ex used to do this and now it's become a habit, but specifically because this is something that you enjoy and you no longer do, and you would like to try that in your relationship in order to manifest more intimacy. You want to approach this conversation with sensitivity and openness, especially if they're starting to talk about weird stuff. If it is necessary, you guys might have to schedule sex. Again, this might sound clinical, but for very busy couples, it can make sure that intimacy stays a priority. Meaning, sexy time, magic in the bedroom day, giggity night. You need to figure it out and make sure that one, you're not allowing any arguments to happen this day. Two, you're not trying to resolve any conflict this day. And three, when she giggity's your geschmorgan, you're going to enjoy it. Dang it. Plus, anticipation can actually build the desire, especially if you're going to get into this and something is actually going to occur in a positive fashion where the resolution is gratifying for both individuals. You want to create a romantic atmosphere for this where lights, because I actually have multicolored lights in the house that works, lighting candles, playing music, soft music, not like rock, heavy metal music or anything like that. Soft music. It could be that old school soul music, that baby making music, love music, stuff like that. But you want to give each other massages. You want to utilize small efforts that can make big differences in setting the mood. And notice that between the candles, the massage oils, the KY jelly, the lighting, the music, you have only spent $20 total. If that, maybe 10, and you have knocked all of this stuff out, right? So it does not cost a lot of money to really rekindle the relationship. It just requires a lot of effort. Now you want to focus on sensuality, not just getting it on, right? You want to explore different forms, physical pleasure, use the little feather thing, blow the wind or other such things. Stimulation is the key, not necessarily focusing on penetration, fellas. And you want to use the connection beyond just intercourse, where the sensual touch and the prolonged eye contact and simply being physically close can cause and increase the incredible intimate experience, where that will redevelop the level of euphoric experience from the honeymoon phase. So if you guys start being spontaneous about this, in addition to the mandatory time that this is supposed to get down, you'll be able to surprise your partner with romantic gestures and expressing affections in new ways, in new locations, where it's not just in this one room of the house. It's all over the place. And I got to take a sidestep and say, look, Valentine's Day is overrated, because if you value your partner year round in different ways, you don't have to specifically spend extra money on one of the most expensive days next to Christmas to show your partner value. You should be able to show your partner value every 3 days, within 72 hours of every 3 days. Right? So much so that Valentine's becomes just another day. Now, if you cultivate your curiosity and genuine interest in your partner, where over time you recognize that it is easy to fall into the trap of thinking we know everything about the other person. Cultivating curiosity helps you see them with fresh eyes. You will be able to find new things about your partner all the time. You want to ask open-ended questions instead of questions that have a simple yes or no answer. You want to ask questions like, what was the most interesting part of your day? What are you most excited about in the coming weeks? What's something you've been thinking about lately that you haven't shared? What are your dreams for the future, big or small? What's challenging you right now? See what I'm saying? These are the things that you can ask your partner, which could give you the ability. And I'm going to give you these questions. These are the things that you can ask your partner that'll give you the ability to get a better understanding of what your partner is thinking, which gives your partner the ability to feel heard, feel seen, feel understood. And if you're doing the same thing where you're responding to similar questions for your partner, have a similar experience. Because again, this isn't a situation where you're judging them. You want to listen to the answers with full attention. Don't just wait for your turn to speak. Show genuine interest in their life stories, passions, and experiences. It is not something that you're trying to one up them on, where you're going to share similar experiences where you are more dramatic or more exciting. You want to listen and understand what they're saying. Notice the little things about what they're telling you. Pay attention to their habits, preferences, and the small changes in their lives. This shows that you're observant and that you care. For example, they're always complaining about how their feet hurt. You should be able to get them a pair of Dr. Scholl's and a new pair of shoes. That way their feet don't hurt no more. They've got bad posture. You should be able to find some kind of posture correcting equipment that can help them straighten their backs out. Just give them a back massage. Bring him to a chiropractor, pop his hip back in place, something. But one of the other things that you should always do is you should support your partner's individual passions and promote their growth. Encouraging your partner's personal interests and goals, even if they're different from yours. When people are happy and fulfilled as individuals, they bring more energy and positivity to the relationship. So you would improve your relationship success by putting more effort into your partner's success. Supporting each other's growth and self-love can deepen attraction and emotional resonance. Then you want to inject playfulness, humor, and fun into the relationship. Relationships need laughter and lightness to thrive. I've seen on social media where there's this one family that plays pranks on each other, and they're popping balloons and covering each other with stuff and using the flare guns that's doing the confetti thing and stuff to that effect. And even the child is involved in it now, where the family is together pranking each other in a holistic fashion, where ideally after the prank occurs, they should clean up together as a family. But the fact is that being able to bring this laughter into the family, if things have been too serious or routine consistently, you want to bring back the fun. So share jokes and funny stories. Don't underestimate the power of a good laugh. You want to be playful. Tease each other gently if that's your dynamic. And when I say gently teasing, you are not supposed to take shots at anybody's pet peeves or insecurities. As long as you know that they're okay with the kind of jokes that you're throwing at them, you can throw any kind of jokes that you want. You can have pillow fights as long as the pillow fights are gentle and non-conflictual. If you end up dating a person that has had a troubled past where physical violence, even in a playful fashion, could trigger anger responses, you might not want to try pillow fights. But If you have an individual, that's okay with a pillow fight. You just know that if their emotions shift where pillow fighting might turn into a real fight, that they're able to withdraw from the match. And when they withdraw from the match, you stop. You got to know when enough is enough. I know some people like to tease each other by playing pranks on one another and joking towards one another. But if the person that's being pranked on is highly stressed out, that could trigger a rage explosion. And then what you were doing in playfulness can turn into a bitter argument. So you got to be careful with how you play with your partner, especially if it's spontaneous. Being silly with them. This works where you can behave out of character in an appropriate fashion, where it doesn't insult or offend your partner, but it could catch them off guard. Flirting isn't just for the early dating phases. You could flirt with your partner 5 years into the relationship. You could entice them into redirecting their attention to something else if you're not deliberately trying to distract them from their passions and hobbies. Like, for example, if your partner is a gamer and they're playing video games, and I'm always going to reference these people because I have found that a lot of men that grew up as gamers, when video games start becoming a thing, and they end up in a relationship with a woman that wants more attention from him, she will put herself in front of his game and force him to acknowledge her. Back in the day, men used to watch sports on TV, and they would even invite their friends over, and women will force the man to give her attention during the man's favorite pastime, which is watching this particular game, which is only going to be a few hours out of the day, only during the season when his team is on. During that moment, you should be co-piloting his ability to adventure into his hobbies and passions, not trying to make him choose between you and his hobbies and passions. That is catastrophic in your relationships. Likewise, if you have a boyfriend that's a gamer or a girlfriend that's a gamer, you want to get on the game with them and try to be on their team. If it's a multiplayer game, you want to be able to get on the game and try to be on their team. If you suck at the game, you should spend more time learning how to play the game so that you can get on the game with your partner, so that when you and your partner play the game together, that you are able to carry the weight of the team and not be the cause of your partner's failures. Right? This gives your partner the ability to do the things that he or she likes to do, and you get to enjoy time with them by doing what they love to do, which is what we were saying earlier in the show, which is sharing pastimes. But finding ways to have fun with each other where you're not competing against each other, but you're enjoying each other's time. Board games and other such things are sometimes fun, but because there's only going to be one winner, unless you're going to throw the match and let your partner let your partner win every now and again because you win all the time, it is not going to be fun for them if you're going to play a game where your partner always loses. That is going to be demoralizing. So even in game night, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to how often your partner gets a chance to win the game. So when you have in game night, you have those board games, card games, or even video games. These things are going to be fun and interacting and challenging for both of you, but you have to set it up where at least 40% of the time you're losing so that they can count 4 wins out of 10. Okay. Because if you beat them every single time, they're going to be miserable. They're going to quit playing, and you're going to be like, oh, come on, let's do it again. No, nobody wants to lose all the time. You got to throw a few of the games. You can't let it seem like you stop the race and let them win. You got to kind of like crash the car a little bit, maybe let off the throttle some, let them catch up and pass you up, like slow down on the thing. You kind of got to like not move as fast and let them take you out a couple times, like respawn in the wrong spot. If you're playing basketball or something like that, one of those sports games, you got to kind of let them make a couple of goals. Really you're doing it for the fun. You're not doing it to be the undefeated whatever. You understand? Recreate funny memories, bring up inside jokes, or reminisce about hilarious moments from your past that do not devalue your partner. Okay, you want to make sure that what you're doing does not devalue your partner, because while it's fun for you, it won't be fun for them. So make sure that you're reminiscing on things that does not devalue your partner. Find humor in everyday situations. Learn to laugh together at life's little absurdities. Playfulness reduces stress and strengthens those emotional bonds. Then we're going to be moving into, we got a few more things we're going to be wrapping up with, but then we're going to be moving into expressing appreciation and gratitude regularly. Now, I've talked about this on the show quite a few times, and we need to make sure that we do this even in long-term relationships, because it is so easy to take a long-term partner for granted. Actively expressing appreciation can really shift the emotional climate of your relationship. Saying thank you, it means nothing, but when you say thank you for small things and you acknowledge the everyday effort your partner makes, even if they seem like routine chores, thank you for making coffee, or I really appreciate you taking out the trash, especially if you randomly do it, not in the moment. That's when it really feels recognized. So somebody does the laundry, you go and see the laundry done. Oh, hey, so and so, I really appreciate you for taking care of the laundry. Thank you for making the laundry, or doing the laundry. They come and make the beds. Oh, the beds look wonderful today. They make you a cup of coffee. My day having your coffee. These things let them know that right? And this leads into giving specific compliments, because of instead of the generic ones like, you look nice, you're awesome, that you want to be a little bit more spontaneous, such as like, the color really brings out your eyes, or I love how passionate you are when you talk about your hobbies. You come up with something that's a little bit less generic. We were talking about this on a show yesterday and on Wednesday. Instead of just saying, oh, you're hot, or oh, you're sexy, or whatever, you need to really get in there and really identify specifically what you like about the other person, the things that they do. Even if, like, you really do a good job of putting creases in my boxers, like that, as ridiculous as that sounds, like, seriously, point out the characteristics about the other person, because they put a lot of effort into that. Right? Now, I told you guys before about these writing notes on the cue cards, but writing notes or text messages of appreciation is another way to really work on your relationship. A small, unexpected message can brighten your partner's day and make them feel valued. So the delayed compliment, meaning that you seen them do something earlier today, but you're going to let them know about it while y'all not together. And you're letting them know, like, you really enjoyed that. You're really proud of it. It made you happy. You're enthusiastic about this. You noticed it, right? They're going to get that response and they're going to be like, validated, right? Now, focus on your partner's positive qualities, not the negative ones. Your partner focuses on their negative qualities. You focus on your partner's positive qualities. Because if you focus on your partner's negative qualities, you're only going to be complaining. If you focus on your partner's positive qualities, you will only be complimenting them. Your partner's negative qualities couple with your negative qualities, and that is critical thinking, brainstorming of what can we do to make our relationship better, right? You want to make a conscious effort to notice and acknowledge the things you love and admire about your partner. Think about the sweet times you've shared. Then you want to share what you miss when you're thinking about what you'd miss if they weren't around. This could help you re-experience those positive feelings, okay? For example, If you've got a family member or a friend or a loved one that like they bake your favorite cake on a regular basis, you can acknowledge the fact that I would not be able to get this cake if you didn't bake it for me. And I really love this cake. I wouldn't be able to get such awesome regular meals every day. And I really love eating cooked foods. Something as practical as, man, this house would fall apart if you weren't here fixing it. Really acknowledging the absence of the other person would have recognizable impacts on the existence of this relationship. Lets that person know that they have value in this relationship. Where again, ladies, I asked y'all yesterday, what do you do in your relationship that your partner values? This is an extreme example of that. If your partner can't think of something on the fly that would not exist if you weren't there, this activity, this action, this function that only functions because you're here, then that means you need to be more involved in your relationship. Because if the only thing you do is make them smile, then you ain't doing shit. Because I know that people could say with me, man, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have groceries in the house every day. Like literally every day. They're dropping groceries off at the doorstep every day. That don't happen in most people's households. You could say, well, without you, I wouldn't have gas in the car on a regular basis. What a needle never goes past half. It's always full. Long distance journeys, always full. You know, without you, I wouldn't have bills paid on a regular basis. Without you, I wouldn't have credit being boosted up on a regular basis. Without you, I wouldn't be able to invest in things on a regular basis. That shows value. People give and receive love in different ways. So you have to remember, according to Dr. Gray Chapman's concept of 5 love languages: words of affirmation, actions of service, receiving gifts, quality time, physical touch, can be a really used framework. If you identify your own and your partner's primary love languages, you'll be able to have a conversation about it, or maybe take an online quiz together about it. You can notice, because the average individual gives love the way they receive it, but they don't receive love the way they give it. So the way your partner expresses their love to you, that is their love language. That's the primary signs of their love language. And if they do not give love to you the way you receive it, that's not important. As if you do not give love to them the way they give love to you, then you recognize y'all have different love languages. That's what's important. And then recognizing that that's important, that's when you guys are able to talk about this. Because if you make an effort to speak your partner's love language, even if it's not your natural way of expressing love, making an effort in their language can make them feel deeply seen and cared for. So if you're the kind of person that buys gifts for a person who could care less about a gift, that's not their love language. That person might prefer a hug. That person might prefer you hold their hand. That person might prefer you spend more time with them. You might prefer receiving a gift, but that's not what your partner might prefer. Be that as it may, in order to mess with your partner on your partner's level, you have to recognize how your partner receives love, and then you're supposed to be able to perform in that fashion. Working towards common goals can strengthen your bond and give you a sense of shared purpose. Now, if you discuss your future goals together, what you do, you determine, what do you both want your relationship to look like in 5 years, in 1 year, in 10 years, in 20 years. I told you guys, get a 20-year plan and set yourself goals along that 20-year plan. Where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Right? If you follow my method, you should be a millionaire in 10 years. So you should be benefiting from that million for 10 years in your 20-year plan. But along the way, things are going to change. Things are going to shift. You're going to have to make adjustments. And as you make those adjustments, you should be able to still maintain the path and course track of reaching your 10-year and 20-year goals. But you want to set small, achievable relationship goals. For example, let's try one new activity together for each month, or let's have a dedicated no screens conversation for 20 minutes every evening. This is going to be a situation where we're going to just talk without judgment, right? You want to plan something big together. It doesn't have to be expensive though, but it could be a fun vacation, a home improvement project, or a savings goal. Like if you guys 3 or 4 savings goals that you could utilize in your relationships in order to improve finances in your relationship. The act of planning and looking forward to something together can be very bonding. You could do a 2-part scenario where you do a savings goal that leads to a vacation plan, where the success of the savings goal dictates the value of the vacation, which ultimately gives your partner something to work for. Now, no relationship is without conflict. So the key is how you handle it. Now, I recommend that you address issues promptly and respectfully, but there's a time and a place for everything. So don't let resentments build up and fester. You want to focus on the problem, not the person that caused the problem. Avoid blaming and name calling. You want to seek to understand, then be understood, and listen to your partner's perspectives before jumping in to defend your own actions. You also want to recognize that if you're focusing on the problem in and of itself, it doesn't matter who caused the problem. The goal is to resolve the problem and then try to proactively plan a way to prevent that problem from reoccurring again, unless this is a situation like getting a flat tire or running out of gas where you don't have to, you cannot prevent it from happening, but you can proactively find a workaround so that when it does happen again, you've already got the solution. Be willing to apologize and forgive. Forgiving is not forgetting or letting it go. Forgiving is not harboring ill will towards the other person and moving forward in a positive fashion with the situation. Letting go of the emotional attachment to the action is what you would be doing, but not letting go of the fact that the action occurred. Apologizing is a very fickle thing. I'm going to tell you guys that you need to stop blatantly apologizing for everything under the sun. You must genuinely apologize for the things that you did not intend on occurring. You're not apologizing because you got caught. You're not apologizing because getting caught got your partner mad. You're apologizing only if what you did was not intentional. If it was intentional and you don't like the outcome, doesn't matter. Not sorry for it because I did it. Now, some people can say, well, what about if you have regret? If you truly regret it, but you're not going to repeat the action, then yeah, you should apologize for it. But an apology should only be for an action or behavior pattern that is not going to be a repetitive action or repetitive behavior pattern. If it is repetitive, for example, if you're a smoker, your partner doesn't want you to smoke in the car, and you're smoking in the car. You're apologizing because all the effort you put into getting the smoke smell out of the car, they still smell smoke in the car. You're not apologizing for smoking. You're apologizing for getting caught. If you smoke in a car and you're going to smoke in a car and they recognize that you're going to smoke in a car and they point out the fact that you're smoking in a car, they can smell the smoke in the car. Yeah, I did that. I tried to clean it up. I thought you wasn't going to notice it, but you noticed it. Do not follow through with, oops, my bad, or I'm sorry, or whatever, because you're really now only apologizing for the fact that they caught you. Okay. So You want to hold on to your ability to recognize when you have made mistakes, but you don't want to hold on to grudges, because these things will just eat away at the intimacy. Grudges and resentment will destroy a relationship, and by destroying any intimate moments that you could have had, leading you to being in the type of relationship that only has conflict, which will end up leading into the type of relationship that will end. Forgiveness is crucial for long-term satisfaction. Research actually shows that forgiveness is positively linked to relationship satisfaction and commitment. If you're recognizing that less negative communication is very key, you will know that studies show that while positive communication is good, having less negative communication is consistently linked to high satisfaction in the moments. So being able to talk to each other on a positive basis is not as important as being able to avoid talking to each other on a negative basis as often as possible. Do not say something that you cannot take back, even if you don't regret it, because it's not about how you felt when you said it. It's about how the other person will continue to feel after you've said it, because I'm sorry doesn't fix everything. Okay. Even though words don't cause physical pain, words cause long-lasting emotional pain and trauma that ultimately does not get rectified overnight or even over a decade. Some people can linger on something that you've said for 20 years and remind you of it 20 years after it's happened, where the incident itself has been long since archived and overlooked, to the point where you don't even remember the full details behind the fact that something was said, but the fact that it was said and it hurt that much, you won't let it go. So don't say things that you can't take back. It's better to say nothing in an escalated situation than to say something negative in an escalated situation that you can't take back. Now, why connection is vital? It is very important that you keep your own sense of self. So losing yourself in a relationship can ironically lessen your attraction. One of which is because you guys become the same person and you weren't attracted to yourself. You're attracted to the other person because the other person's not you. Pay attention to that. Also remember that nurturing your own hobbies and friendships is also equally important. So having your own interests, giving you more to bring back to the relationship and make you a more interesting person. Because if you guys can't talk about nothing other than how good that total cereal tastes, because y'all around each other so much that y'all have never done anything different ever, it's not gonna work for you. You guys have to experience something somewhere so that you guys can tell stories about the differences that you've experienced in your lives, so that you guys can manifest a more effective lifestyle. Then you want to remember that personal growth is going to enrich the relationship. So when you are happy and growing as an individual, you bring that positive energy into your partnership. And this is going to allow for a space of personal growth, which can bring fresh energy into the relationship, where the relationship will experience unanimous growth. You want to seek professional help if needed in situations where you guys are not communicating appropriately, or you have concerns that you're not quite comfortable with addressing with your partner as of yet. Sometimes, even with your best efforts, it can be really hard to break out of those ingrained patterns. And a couples therapist or counselor can offer a neutral space and tools to help you communicate more effectively and rebuild your connections. So investigating in professional guidance can make a huge difference in long-term relationship satisfaction. Now, can chemistry be cultivated if it wasn't strongly initially, or has it faded? So if it wasn't strong in the beginning, or if it was strong in the beginning and has it faded now? These are really common questions that people ask. So while the instant explosive chemistry is often what we see in the movies, many deep, lasting, and passionate relationships actually develop chemistry over time. So when I was telling you guys about flying to the Philippines and going to get you a woman that'll give you 15 to 20 years of her life to fall in love with you, versus the instantness of the Western culture in America, where if she's not feeling it by the third date, you would have spent $750 impressing her. She's not impressed enough to be attracted to you because she's not looking at your character and your personality. She's looking at the activities and the events and judging you based off of these and the events. And maybe your behavior during those activities and events, but that's pretty much surface level stuff. Initial attractions can definitely grow as you get to know someone on a deeper level. Well, their personalities, their kindness, their humor, their intellect are all recognized. Shared experiences, including building trust and practicing vulnerability, can absolutely foster a growing sense of emotional and physical attraction. As trust and understanding deepens, so can the emotional resonance and attraction. It usually has to start with some level of attraction, whether it's physical attraction, emotional attraction, admiration of one's intellect, but through personality, compatibility, and emotional connection, chemistry can indeed build. For couples where the initial spark has dimmed, the actionable steps we just talked about throughout today's show are precisely about recultivating that chemistry by rebuilding the intimacy, the connections, and shared joy. So it takes ongoing emotional engagements, mutual understandings, and shared growth to make this possible. Now, this journey of building real chemistry is an ongoing one, and it's one of those most rewarding investments you guys can make. If this resonates with you, or if you have your own experiences and tips for moving beyond just going through the motions and building a deep connection, please share them in the comments below, because your insight could really help someone else on their path. And if you found this video helpful, please give a thumbs up and subscribe for more content on relationships and personal growth. And hit the notification bell so you don't miss our future discussions, because we all deserve relationships that are not just functional, but truly fulfilling. Now, building real chemistry instead of just going through the motions isn't a one-time fix. It's a conscious, continuous choice to engage in your partner with intention, curiosity, and an open heart. It's about recognizing that the initial spark might change, but it can evolve into a deeper, more substantial flame if you nurture it regularly. Relationships, like anything else valuable to you, requires effort and attention to thrive. Nothing worth having isn't worth fighting for. So the truth is, every relationship will have moments where it feels more routine than riveting. Life's demands can easily push connections to the back burner, but the difference between a relationship that succumbs to autopilot and one that keeps its vibrance lies in the willingness of both partners to actively participate in keeping the connection alive. It takes courage, right? Because I've told you guys before that cheating is not a one person, at least two people to screw this up. Both people in the relationship is part of screwing up the relationship. But it does take courage to have the hard conversations, vulnerability to share your true self, and commitment to prioritize each other amidst the chaoses of life. So remember, it's not about trying to achieve a constant state of honeymoon phase intensity. That's just not realistic. Instead, it's about fostering a consistent undercurrent of emotional intimacy, mutual respect, shared joy, and that secure feeling that you are truly seen, understood, and cherished by your partner. It's about choosing to turn towards each other again and again, even when it might feel easier to turn away or drift apart. The journey from going through the motions to building realistic chemistry is a real testament to the power of international love and intentional love as well. It's about creating a relationship that doesn't just look good on the outside or on the YouTube highlight reels, but it feels deeply nourishing and alive from within. It requires both that initial spark and the enduring qualities of compatibility. And the good news is that both can be nurtured through deliberate effort and genuine connections. For lasting love, both chemistry and compatibility are essential. And the even better news is that both can be cultivated. So even if it's not there, you can find it if you look hard enough. You deserve a loving connection, and it truly starts with the choices you make every day. Now, I want to tell you guys, I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me on the show tonight. We actually went 2.5 hours on this concept. This was a pretty deep and insightful concept. We're going to have to do another one of these next week. Remember, tomorrow we have our question and comments with the fans. That's going to be starting at about 10:30-ish tomorrow night. So keep your eyes open for that. We're going to be talking about the riots that's going to be that has been happening, what's fueling those riots, and how that's going to be negatively impacting our economy. So keep your eyes out for that, and more investment strategies that we have coming up on Tuesday, and how the money is shifting with our investment portfolios on Tuesday. We have a different country on Wednesday, and that's the lineup for the next 4 days. So make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Make sure that you guys tune in, because we don't let the sun rise without going live. So we're on every night of the week for at least an hour, every night of the week. And we've got a different content for you every night of the week. Now, I want to thank you guys for coming to tonight's show. But before we walk out of the room, ladies, I'll tell y'all every single night, as long as a situation doesn't make sense, ladies, I'm going to keep asking y'all to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And fellas, we're about 75% male-driven podcast from the male perspective. I give you guys information on how to improve yourselves to become higher value men, but these women can use this information to become higher value women as well. And women are more dedicated than men are. So if you don't focus on your grind, she's focusing on her grind, and you're going to have a lot to compete with, because in order to get the women that are choosing the hypergamy theory, you have to do it better than her. And they are able to pull out all the stops with the investment information that I'm giving them. I just showed you guys almost $600 worth of available stock trades over the past 3 weeks. And we're going to be talking about exactly how much we walked out with by the end of the trading period, because we started towards the end of May and we hit all of the trades for June, and we're going to be hitting more trades for the remainder of June. And you'll be seeing the resolution of that in a 30-day period, where how much capital we could pull in versus how much capital we put towards that. And I want you guys to understand that if you do what we're doing when we're doing it, you will see some results. Now, you're not going to do it on the same financial level as we do it, but if you're looking at 167 or 168% return, whatever level you do it at, small or big, you will see a turnabout that is fair play. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground! My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.